The Resident has changed a lot in the last year, but fans have stuck with the show through it all. We love the stories and the characters that they use to tell them. How much more of Conrad and the rest of the team at Chastain will we see? Will we get a season 6 of the Fox show? Let's find out everything we know. So firstly, has The Resident been renewed for season 6? No, as of the start of February, we have not received any news about the future of the series yet. We hope that they'll announce the renewal of The Resident very soon, but since they aren't even finished with the 5th season, it makes sense that they haven't made any big announcements. And obviously, after things have changed, the one of the biggest stars of the series left, they needed to see how the show would do, and if they'd be a major drop in the ratings after the series went through so many changes. A drop in ratings equals a drop in earnings for the broadcasters. If it drops too far, then it won't be worth it for them to continue the show. Saying that, how has season 5 been doing? The series has for sure seen a drop in ratings between season 4 and season 5. It was kind to be expected with Emily Van Camp leaving the series. A big part of what made the show as great as it is was the relationship between Nick and Conrad, and the fact that Nick was just as strong a character as any of the male characters. When Emily Van Camp decided to move on from the series, seemingly to take some time and focus on her family, it was a blow to the series. You couldn't really blame her. She's been working for so long and it was probably time for a break. But even without Nick, the story is still great and the characters are still incredible. Fans love the show, and even with a drop in viewership for people who watch it live, it's still a series that does really well for Fox, and they don't really have anything similar on the books at the moment. It does look like even with a slight drop in ratings that this is still a very valuable series for the broadcaster, and they'll probably be renewed for the 6th season. Now we have the second half of season 5. The series has been on break for the last month or so, and now it's finally returned to give us the second half of season 5, The Resident. It is going to be super action-packed. In the first half of the series, we saw how everyone was dealing with Nick's death and how Conrad was adapting to being a single father. Now we also had a time jump that allowed the worst time period of grief to be behind the characters when we linked back up with them. It was now around the time where they were all starting to pick up the pieces and move on with their lives. Even Conrad's thinking of starting to dip his toe back into the dating pool. The time jump was a great tool to move things along and make sure that the story didn't stall when Nick died. Stories are going on, and when we left the series before the break, Conrad was right at the point where he was going to give Dr. Randolph Bell some really bad medical news. After Dr. Bell was showing loads of worrying symptoms since the time jump, during the break, the characters of the series made it clear that Bell's diagnosis would be a big part of the season going forward. What was Dr. Bell diagnosed with? It was clear that he was having a lot of issues and some serious symptoms after the time jump. And then Conrad did a bunch of tests, and he was right on the brink of giving us the answers to what was wrong with Bell when the show ended. We were left with a bunch of questions the entire winter break. Writers of The Residents sure know how to keep fans hooked and wanting to watch the next episode as soon as they're able. But after all of that waiting, they did reveal what's wrong with Bell in the first episode back from break. The incredible surgeon has multiple sclerosis. It's a terrible illness for anyone to deal with, and obviously it shocked Bell to the core. At first, he wanted to leave Chastain and even his relationship with Kit behind so that he wouldn't become a burden on anyone. The series does a great job of showing just how people feel when facing scary and life-changing medical diagnoses. The show put in a lot of thought on what Bell would be diagnosed with. Like I said, this show puts a lot of thought into the feelings of people who are really living with these illnesses that they depict on the series. And when it came time to decide the illness that Bell would be diagnosed with, the executive producer, Andrew Chapman, and the writing team for The Resident put in just as much thought into what they would portray in the series. They wanted to bring awareness to the disease and also be very mindful of the community of people living with the disease. They wanted to take up the cause, so to speak. But to do that, they really needed to get things right. This is a disease with loads of different symptoms that vary from person to person. They made sure to talk to the expert doctors extensively, make sure that as far as possible, they got all the details right. But this won't be a disease that will be dealt with in just one episode and then they will figure out a miraculous cure. Instead, this is something that's going to be a big plot point for right through at least the 5th season, and very possibly into season 6 too, if we're lucky enough to get one. Have you been watching season 5 of The Resident? What do you think? Do you miss Nick's character? Do you think the show will survive without her? Share all your thoughts with us in the comments section. Love to hear from you. Next up, we'll check out how Bell's diagnosis will impact his relationship with Kit, how they honored Nick recently, and so much more. How will Bell's diagnosis diagnosis impact his relationship with Kit. We've been rooting for the couple to get together for a few seasons now. They've had awesome chemistry, and I have shipped them since they started working together. I just love how they support each other. Belle has a giant ego at times, but he supports her as a strong woman in a position of power. It is really great. They got together during the time jump, and we haven't had the opportunity to completely explore their relationship yet. But Belle's first instinct was to run away from him. Luckily, Kit did not let that happen, and I must admit their relationship was incredibly sweet and made me get a little blurry-eyed. Chapman has assured fans that we don't have to worry about their relationship going forward because it looks like they're solid. But even the most solid couple is sure to face some adapting and turmoil while dealing with a disease as serious as this. Belle making the transition from being a doctor to being a patient is not going to be an easy one for anyone, but it's sure going to be interesting to watch. Next, how they honored Nick. Just a warning, there are massive spoilers in this section, but it was just so beautiful we had to talk about it. In the timeline of the show, Nick has been gone for a few years, and Conrad and their daughter Gigi have started to adapt to being a family of two. That doesn't mean that the show or the characters on it has forgotten Nick at all. They keep finding ways to honor the character. If you remember, Nick had found one last way of being a hero and taking care of other people before she died, by donating her organs. And now, in a really emotional show, they brought the women that received her heart into the hospital. It was a comfort to Conrad that her organs were living on and saving others. But this woman who came in, Hannah, wasn't taking her anti-rejection meds, and the wonderful gift that Nick gave her, her heart was failing. It was really tough to watch Conrad trying to care for the patient while dealing with all the emotions of not only meeting her face to face, but also the anger he had to have felt thinking she wasn't properly taking care of this organ. Luckily, it wasn't intentional, and they figured it out and got her healthy. But the moment that Gigi listened to her mom's heart, and moments where Conrad told Hannah about Nick, just so incredibly beautiful and so sad at the same time. Did you see those moments? Did you love how much they honored the character and organ donors in general as much as I did? And cry just as much? Would you watch another season of the show? Share all your comments with us in the comments section. Thanks for watching.